Hi, welcome to Coaster Mania. Today, I'm feeling a bit spicy. Yeah, it's time we roast each major roller coaster manufacturer and pick apart their failures bit by bit. Today, we're going to be focusing on the worst thing about every one of them, and trust me when I say this, I'm ready for the unhappy comments. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'm narrowing this list down to the major roller coaster manufacturers in the Western Hemisphere. I won't be hitting all of them, but if you feel like there is one that I should mention, let me know down in the comments below. All the problems I'm gonna be listing here are things that are addressable. I won't be criticizing a company for something completely unrealistic, and I want to keep this video grounded in reality. That way we can stay sane during this video. For those of you who are curious, I will be making a video focusing on the best things of every manufacturer soon, so stay tuned for that. As soon as that video is out, I'll link it to the card in the upper left. Alright, let us begin with our first victim. Arguably one of the most successful manufacturers of large-scale roller coasters, what can I say about our first contestant, B&M? Well, for one thing, their most recent coasters, Penguin Trek and Iron Menace, are experiencing heavy rattling nearly from day one of operations. This is something that does tend to plague other coasters of theirs that aren't super new, but still, on some of their rides, this rattle is bad. I personally feel like I can be somewhat tolerant when it comes to rattle, but on rides like Diamondback at Kings Island, this rattle is especially noticeable and very uncomfortable. It's at a frequency that can just hurt your brain after getting off of their rides. Now, I have heard that part of this is on the maintenance teams at each of these parks, but this seems to be a specific issue to B&M, and I can't quite wrap my head around what could be causing it. Neither can the parks, it seems. Moving on, I can't go without mentioning the B&M vest restraints. In a time period where nearly every other major manufacturer has figured out lap bars that come over your shoulders, B&M opted for the more restrictive vest restraints. If you like feeling airtime, too bad I guess. Moving on to our next victim, we have Gerstlauer. Once again with the rattle. Every major Gerstlauer I've ridden has this. What could be the cause for it? So as to not tread the same ground as I did with B&M, let's just move on. What else is Gerstlauer bad at? Well, capacity. In all of their time, Gerstlauer have made decent capacity family rides and low capacity thrill rides. What gives? They've done it before with Storm the Dragon Legend at Tussenford. They know how to send multiple trains at once on a single course, but the trains. Their Infinity coasters are trending in the right direction, but they still miss the mark. Gravity Craft Corporation, or what some of you may know as Gravity Group, is one of those companies that doesn't seem to have the biggest impact in the industry. So what's their biggest flaw? Well, there's a couple. First and foremost, their older coasters are rough. I won't lay all the blame on them, however, since the maintenance teams at each park their rides are installed at play a large part in keeping these rides smooth. Their next biggest flaw? Industry trust. This is something that is changing as of late, but they don't have many notable installations at major North American amusement parks. Is it a trust thing, or is it the fact that GCI exists? Speaking of GCI, a lot of their coasters are very samey. Their layouts can tend to be fairly predictable. The designers at GCI found a solid method for designing good layouts for their wooden coasters, and they stuck with it. What this means then is that their coasters don't often expand beyond their general design language. Sure, these layouts can be good, but they aren't breaking any ground. This leads to the sad fact that despite some of their best coasters being pretty good, they seemingly never get to hold the status of the star attraction at the parks they're installed at. Their next biggest issue? Innovation. Now, I know we're on the cusp of their next new thing becoming a major factor in the future. I'm talking about the Titan Track, of course. However, if you look at the designs of their newest coasters that feature this Titan Track, you'll come to realize that they only seem to use it sparingly and also haven't adapted their layout designs to take further advantage of this steel track. I mean, Gravity Group has inversions on their wooden coasters. Why not you, GCI? In investing, there's two types of people, the bulls and the bears. When it comes to Intamin, the parks, looking at them, are often bears, while they themselves are the bulls. Intamin loves to attempt to innovate. In the early 2000s, they played fast and loose with these innovations and made some impressive stuff, but also forgot to iron out the kinks before they made these innovations. This meant that, as a park, you were buying a big, super expensive roller coaster that broke down constantly. Nowadays, reliability is much less of a problem for Intamin, but they're still one of the more expensive manufacturers out there. In the 2010s, we saw Intamin making their next big mistake, trying to push too hard on the limits of the human body. Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion, Project 305, had to get 3 separate modifications done to prevent the ride from causing people to black out during its first turnaround. Nowadays, they seem to be a lot more level-headed. They did take on the Falcon's Flight project, which we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. So they went from pushing too hard on the technology and your wallet, then they went to pushing too hard on the riders and your wallet, and now they seem to be much better about these things, except your wallet. Just to keep up with the theme of expensive roller coasters, let's talk about Mack Rides. This company has a long history, but most of it is full of them installing smaller scale roller coasters. Other than cost, their biggest fault is the seeming lack of originality. They've got their Wild Mouse models that follow your typical Wild Mouse layout. There's the custom multi-launch coasters that sit in nearly the same realm as what Intamin and Vekoma produce, and they have spinning coasters that are in a similar boat. Sure, their rides are often as reliable as they are expensive, but their higher thrill models tend not to get installed at many parks because of this cost. Add on to the fact that there may be slightly less industry confidence in them, at least in North America. Sure, their rides are good, but they must be rare for a reason, right? Alright, Premier Rides, I've got a challenge for you. Make a ride with a lift hill. Okay, you've done it once, long ago. How about now? I don't mean to say that launches are bad, but Premier Rides has one thing and they stick to it. For them, they seem to barely have enough flexibility to make roller coasters that are less than high thrill attractions. No shade here, of course, but they could try to make it in the family coaster market. As of now, it seems like they won't even touch that side of the industry with a 10-foot pole. You notice how I didn't go to the predictable route of mentioning everyone's least favorite aspect of their rides? Well, that's because I just haven't gotten to it yet. Premier Rides has a problem with comfort collars. These are designed to help riders keep their bodies upright during quick transitions, but instead, they cause neck pain. Oh, and let's not forget the other design flaws of their trains. Screw you if you're less than flexible, or maybe a little larger in size. The experience of loading into their modern trains is atrocious. The restraints don't move far enough out of the way to allow for adequate room for riders to easily squeeze past. If they took the restraint design present on many Mack Rides or Intamin coasters, I bet they could solve this issue greatly. But no, they've got to be stubborn and stick to their super tiny trains. Oh, and I can't go without mentioning that they were the minds behind one of the most power-hungry roller coasters ever to exist. This was Batman and Robin the Chiller. This coaster saw a ton of errors on its computer system simply due to the sheer amount of power it took to launch its trains. RMC's problems come in a couple of different eras. During the Alan Schilke days, the layouts were incredible, but repetitive. So far in the Joe Draves era, these layouts are still incredible, but often not as well paced as they used to be. Speaking of their repetitive nature, if you love bunny hills, you'll love coasters by RMC. They too love bunny hills and put them wherever they can on their coasters. Now, the next biggest issue is their trains. Not everyone complains about these, but enough people do that I feel like it's worth mentioning. The biggest problem comes from their hybrid coasters and the shin guards they have. For some, these have caused a lot of discomfort for their legs. Moving on, their next biggest issue seems to put them in a similar position to what Aero was during their heyday. When Aero Developments was still around, it wasn't uncommon for a new coaster of theirs to close down to have its layout modified. This could be caused by structural issues, unsafe forces being exerted on riders, or issues with valleying. RMC seems to struggle a bit with reinforcing their support structures enough. This means that some of the parks that purchase them end up spending a ton of money keeping their rides from falling apart. It just seems like RMC can tend to struggle with some of the basic parts of roller coaster design. Let's also not forget to mention their issues with the Raptor coasters. It seems to me that the smoothing process that happens between track joints needs to be done just right. Otherwise, you'll end up with an experience that feels similar to riding a train track. You'll notice somewhat uncomfortable bumps at each section between track joints. I can't call this a completely consistent issue, as this isn't present on Stunt Pilot at Silverwood. However, it is present on Jersey Devil Coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. Yeah, Skyline? You guys okay over there? Skyline Attractions isn't a major manufacturer, but they make it a little too easy to be picked on. Let's see, you had both Skywarp models fail on you. Now, your Pescetti Bowl coasters seem to be having their own set of problems. I'm genuinely surprised that Six Flags gave you guys another chance, but they might not after this recent issue. For those of you uninformed, Kid Flash Cosmic Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta Texas valleyed and then derailed recently. These rides also had a problem with one of the lift motors dislodging from the track. It seems like for this ride model specifically, they're experiencing failures at the basic level. So if you choose a Skyline, you're gonna lose your bottom line over how unreliable they are. There's really not much to say about S&S that most people don't already know. They're notoriously unreliable. They're not nearly as bad as Skyline Attractions rides, thank goodness, but they aren't great. If your park has one of their air launch coasters, then you get the other side of the coin. These are incredibly loud. That's it with S&S. I'm genuinely surprised they're still successful in this industry, or are they? Unsurprisingly, there's not much to say about them besides what I already have, good or bad. Vekoma is one of those manufacturers that lost its fight once, but got back up and kept swinging. If you're going to an amusement park in the US that has a coaster built by Vekoma before the year 2010, you might as well stay away, unless you're a masochist or something. Their newer coasters are much better than this, but they follow the exact same design language as modern S&S, Chance Rides, RMC, Intamin, yeah. They make good stuff, but it doesn't stray far behind a sit-down coaster with a 2x2 seating arrangement that can launch that also does inversions, or a sit-down coaster with the same trains that has a lift hill instead. Oh, and you can't forget that they created and still create the most mass-produced coasters in the world. First, it was the Boomerang. Now, it's the Family Boomerang. They must have some sort of facility where they can just mass-produce cloned roller coasters in record time. Zamperla. A rising star? Icarus? I guess we'll have to wait and see what time makes of these underdogs. Although, this is a roasting video. I almost forgot. So, Zamperla, you realize that wooden coasters are supposed to be rough and not steel ones, right? Oh, and don't worry, they've innovated alright. How about locking yourself in a flying torture device? Whoever signed off on the Volair model really should have reconsidered what they were doing, unless they were intentionally trying to breach the Geneva Convention. They could be doing something great with Top Thrill too, but we'll have to wait a little while longer to figure out what's going on with that ride to get an idea of whether or not it will be successful. This latest push of theirs has been interesting, so I'm genuinely wondering what happens. That's it for now, everyone. I'm sure that every fanboy of each manufacturer is going to be arguing down in the comments now, so if you're about to do that, be sure to hold your ground. You wouldn't want to look weak, right? If you disagreed with any of my comments, feel free to let me know down there as well, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like and comment below and hit that bell icon. Special thanks to our Patreon supporter, Future Collective. $1 a month helps me bring even more content to you guys, and I even have some exclusive content coming, so check it out. Check the description below to find links to the rest of our pages. Thanks for watching the video, and ride on, Coaster Maniacs.